Hello everyone, my name is George, and in this tutorial I'll be talking about shadow resolution in the UDK for both BSP and static meshes. I will load up two groups with the exact same objects, and we will work on the one on the bottom of the screen, and the other one will be left untouched so you can compare the results. On the one that we will work on, I'll adjust the shadow resolution to obtain more realistic and accurate results. So first, let's analyze our scene and determine what's actually going on with our shadows right here. Right, so as we can see, we're getting pretty accurate shadow results already, but the quality itself could be improved a little bit. The reason we are getting that choppy shadow outline is because the resolution of our shadows is pretty low, and that is because our shadow settings for the static meshes and our BSP objects are set to default, which is pretty lame if you ask me, but we will change that in a minute. Okay, so before we start, I'm going to talk about a little bit about level performance. I know having pretty shadows in our level makes us feel pretty good and awesome, but there are a few things we must consider before maxing out all of our shadow resolution values. Like, the higher the shadow resolution values in your level, the higher your bake time will be. That's why I recommend that the shadow quality in your scene is one of the last things you do. That way you can play with the values and check your level to see how it's performing at the end. Okay, so now let's get down to business. So, let's change the shadow resolution of our static meshes first. So first, you need to find your mesh you want to work with in the content browser. To achieve this, there are several ways. Number one, you can find your mesh searching in the content browser by clicking this button here on the top of your screen. It's kind of hard to miss. Doing this will make the content browser pop up. So this is the content browser in case you didn't know. So now you know. Or you could select your mesh, right click and click this. Or simply press Ctrl B. That's what I do. It's easier. And doing this will take you directly to your mesh in the content browser, and it will select it for you, saving you that precious half second that you would have wasted right clicking on the screen. That way you can have half second worth of fun after you're done with this tutorial. Right, in the content browser. Once you are in the content browser, double click on the mesh you want to work with, and this window here will pop up. The only thing that matters to us in this window is the light map resolution. But first, I'm going to talk about a little bit about light maps. A light map is a 2D image of a calculated shadow that prints or bakes, if you will, to the floor when you press the bake lighting button on your toolbar. This way, UDK doesn't need to calculate real-time shadows in objects that are not going to be moving in the scene, like buildings or light posts or stuff like that doesn't move in your scene. Light maps use the same resolution sizes of texture maps applied to models. But since a light map has way less information than a texture map, the resolution needed to get good results is lower. So the default resolution for a static mesh in UDK is 32 by 32. This is pretty low. That's why we see those choppy shadows in our scene. So we will change this to 256 by 256. Well, I just typed like 256 once, but you know it's by 2, like in a texture. So we will do the same thing with the other meshes. Okay, oh yeah, and after every change you make, you must bake the lighting to see like the real results in your scene. So after baking our lights, we can see our mesh here. We can't really see that big of a difference because I don't have texture in this model. But trust me, if you do this with your other models that have textures and are in a finished scene, you're gonna notice the shadow improvement. Especially when a shadow is being casted on your object. Alright, so let's move on. Now we're going to improve the shadow resolution for our BSP objects. Improving shadow quality in BSP objects is very similar to what we have done so far, with only one important difference. With static meshes, the higher the light map resolution, the better it will look, or the more crisper, I think. But with BSP is the exact opposite. The lower the light map resolution, the better. To get the BSP shadow settings, select your BSP in the viewport and press F5. This is a hotkey. In this window, we can control a lot of these BSP settings, like texture tiling, light mask parameters, and plenty of other useful stuff. But in this tutorial, we will only focus on light map resolution. There are a few things to keep in mind while adjusting a BSP's light map settings. The resolution you choose, you must always use the rule of the power of 2, which means using texture sizes like 32 by 32 or 16 or 8, 4, and so on. The quality of the shadow always depends on how big your scene is. And since I have a pretty small scene, I will use smaller numbers than a normal scene would need. Anyway, for this particular BSP, the default resolution is 32 as well. So we'll change its value to, 0.5 and see if the results look good. Really shouldn't go any lower than 0.5, like ever. Don't do it. Okay, so we can see the results look pretty good after our bake. The shadow quality is not perfect, but it does need to be. Once you apply your textures, the shadow will blend perfectly with the floor. Right, so we see this looks pretty damn awesome, right? So this concludes my UDK how to improve shadow quality tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy baking!